Friday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and McLean podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and McLean. Mac, I cannot believe we are in the second to last week of the regular season. We have some, I would say, sneaky good games, sneaky important games this weekend. And obviously, we know with Miami and SMU and Clemson, if Clemson loses to the Citadel, they've got a real problem. But Miami and SMU, they got to win out. They've got to make it happen. So it's a very big weekend just for that reason, Mac. But also big because I am jealous because the final portion of your Roback swag bag already came, and mine is just sitting in transit. I'm so bummed. I'm waiting.
Come on, KG. Well, as you can see, I'm donning this new sweatshirt, which, let me say, they sent us a bunch of stuff. This is my favorite by far. I'm going to double, triple up. I'm going to get multiple colors, multiple options. The fit is fantastic. The cloth, I don't know what even to call this. I described it to you earlier. It's like that favorite shirt, that sleep shirt that you have that's been washed 1,000 times. You guys know what I'm talking about. That one shirt that is just like, oh, it feels like that out of the packaging. So I can only imagine what it's going to feel like after a couple of washes. But this thing is great. The fit, like I said, it's loose, but compression and different, like arms. Your arms look good. Come on. But everywhere else, it fits really well. So this is a nice, versatile piece that I'm digging, KG, that I love. So Roback's been super good to us. You can go and use our code right now. There's a site-wide sale, 20% off. But if you use our code, you're going to get a little bit more off too. That's GM Pod. So go check it out, roback.com. Load up. And there's some fun stuff coming out too. Christmas is right around the corner. I think around December, there's going to be even more releases. So you guys stay with us. Use that code, load up, and get you some Roback stuff for a great discount.
Love it, Mac. They have some really cool Virginia Tech stuff, Virginia stuff, Florida State, SMU. Their SMU stuff is fire. And then, maybe some more ACC schools coming down the pike at some point. We will see.
Who knows? Maybe
Mac, I had two of our good friends, two of our producers. I was up in Bristol yesterday. I had a few of them shopping and using our code. And I was doing some advising because, I felt I needed to help them find the best fit for what they needed.
Smart.
So use our code GMPOD, 20% off. We love it. Thank you, Roback. Okay, Mac, let's get into these games. Let's start with Miami because they're back in action. Let's spend some time here on Miami and SMU because we know how important these games are for both these teams, but also for teams trying to find their way into the ACC championship, aka Clemson. Obviously, if one of these teams loses, it would be big for everybody involved and for playoff situations. Number 9, Miami, coming off a bye week, is hosting Wake Forest. Miami is a 24-point favorite. Noon on ESPN. So many questions with how Miami looks. We have not seen them coming off a loss all season, Mac, obviously, because they've only lost one game. And they had a bye week. I mean, tell me what that's like, Mac, because we don't have this in basketball, but you lose and then you just sit. Like, how is it having a bye week after that kind of loss?
Yeah, KG, it's really funny. I was thinking about that later or earlier this week, when Miami did have that bye, and maybe we can get Nick to do a little research, intern Nick here. I don't know if I had a loss going into the bye week. Now, maybe I did. I don't know. But that sounds brutal. That sounds really, really bad. And I just have to think, back and it's not obvious enough. So I'm kind of thinking maybe we didn't because you just have to sit there and fester and think about
remember.
it. Or maybe it happened way early in my career. But I do have to think that it's one of those things where depending on how many losses you have, it can be a couple of different things. One, it's like, oh my gosh, here we go. Can we just go home? Can we get out of here? If you have a couple and if, all kind of seems lost and retrack and hopefully finish really strong. If it's your first one, like it was here for Miami, you have to think that it is the ultimate reset, lock in, focus. Let's go a little bit harder maybe because knowing we have a couple of days off. But ultimately, either kind of way, whether you're winning, losing, whatever, it is a fantastic break. And you just get to kind of breathe and sit back and kind of just see what's happening across the country.
And that's what I hope we see, Mac. I hope we see a well-rested, re-energized, kind of re-motivated Miami team. And I think we will because every single one of their goals is still in front of them. They control their own destiny. win out, you're in the ACC title, win the ACC, you're in the playoff. Like that's all you have to do. And it's not like you have SMU or Clemson remaining on your regular season. You have Wake and you have Syracuse. Now, going to Syracuse might be a little bit of a challenge, but there's absolutely no reason why you're not going to be 100% focused for Wake Forest. And I think you have to go out there and look good, and you have to start fast. Miami has played around with teams, especially in the first half, first three quarters, you could say, all season. Like, I'd love to see Miami go out there and set the tone from the beginning. Wake Forest is not, like, they should not compete with you. They're beat up. They're not having a great year. You need to go set the tone if you're Miami. And Mac, I think one of the ways they do that, they've got to run the ball. They only had 88 yards on the ground against Georgia Tech on 24 carries. You have to remedy that. You have to prove to yourself, prove to everyone else that that was a fluke. You got to start fast. You got to run the ball. Those are two of my big keys for Miami.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. It would be nice to see that. But the interesting thing, as we well know, Cam Ward's going to sling it, and those guys are going to push the ball downfield. They're going to do their thing. Wake Forest statistically has the worst passing defense in the ACC. They're giving up 282 yards a game. They also are very bad at stopping the run. The defense just is not good. They just are not great this year. And there's probably a handful of different reasons for that. They're also giving up the second most points in the league. So Miami should be able to do whatever they want. So the question is, what's going to help you the best go on this run? What's going to help your team? Are there things you need to work on? And I would probably argue you do need to run the ball effectively. You do need to run the ball at will and really demonstrate and get everything shored up, get that offensive line right, get everybody's fits correct, and get those, 1-2 punch, maybe 3 or 4 supplemental running backs ready to play this ultimate, big boy football that you are, that we all know. The higher you get, the more those lines of scrimmage are drastically important and are extremely vital. So I'm with you there. But then nobody wants to admit it, but then in the back of your mind, you've got that Heisman Trophy whispering saying, we're not getting the Heisman by running the football. We're getting the Heisman by throwing it for 400-plus yards, 5 touchdowns. So what do you want to do? It is going to be interesting. And maybe, quite frankly, KG, maybe it'll be telling, if Miami is paying attention to that. I can't help but think they are. I mean, that's a big deal. That is a ton of notoriety for your program to have a Heisman Trophy winner, the things that will do for recruiting. It's a big deal. As much as everybody wants to off-put it and push it to the side, those individual trophies matter for a lot of different things.
They do, Mac. And I think even without the Heisman, Miami and Cristobal and this staff have proven that they can be a really good destination for a high-profile quarterback, whether it's out of high school or out of the portal. So that's proven. Now, would a Heisman be nice and would it help? Of course, that would be huge. And it'd be a big part of kind of building Miami back to what they have been. So I hear you on that. But Mac, I'm not asking for anything crazy. Like, don't run the ball 50 times. You ran the ball 24 times against Georgia Tech for 88 yards. Like, if you run the ball 20 times, can we get 110, 120 yards? Just make us feel better. And I think also for yourself and to keep people honest, Mac, you need to keep people honest. For Syracuse, going into that game, and then whether you play whoever you play in the ACC title game, if you get there, keep people honest so that defensively they have to prepare for everything. I think that's putting that on tape for yourselves, but also for others is good.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. And really, I think ultimately this conversation is probably a little bit less about the offense. And I know they didn't do their, part, scoring, 50 points a game normally. To me, it's all about the defense. Like, I've got to see those guys playing better, playing much more sound, getting after the quarterback, stopping the run. You got a big challenge this week in Claiborne. I mean, that guy is a beast, and he is all over the field, tries to do it a lot of different ways for this team. So we need to see that, right? I mean, we need to see this Miami defense be significantly better, executing at a much higher level, and not the big plays, not silly plays, because it feels like that's every time you look up, there's this big gashing run or throw, that really happens. So to me, I think the best that I could feel about this game is truly seeing that defense play lights out, suffocating football, and not allowing Wake Forest to really do anything, quite frankly. That's where you're like, okay, let's put some stuff to rest. That was a fluky game that we saw against Georgia Tech. the Canes are back in that, kind of championship atmosphere.
I agree, Mac. I think that's what you've got to see. I mean, when you look at Miami giving up big plays, they're kind of middle to bottom of the pack in the ACC. They've given up 11 plays of 40 or more yards. They've given up 14 plays of 30 or more, 44 plays of 20 more yards. That kind of stuff hurts you, especially when you don't start quickly. And then teams get confidence and they're thinking, okay, we can hang around. That's what happened with Georgia Tech. But Wake is not Georgia Tech. I don't think Wake can control the lines of scrimmage and control, really have the game control is what I'm trying to say, like Georgia Tech did. So I think the real question with this game, Mac, is the number. Miami's a 24-point favorite. Here's some interesting nuggets from intern Nick. Wake Forest has been a 20-point underdog twice this season, lost both those games pretty badly and did not cover, 40-6 to Ole Miss and 49-14 against Clemson. Wake has failed to cover the spread in 7 of its last 8 games against top 15 opponents. So that tells you a lot right there. Plus a motivated Miami. 24 is a big number, but I think I'm taking
What if
Miami
I told you
cover,
it's even bigger?
I think
What if I told you it's
Chris Paul's
25?
gotten him right. 25. Oh my gosh. Lord, that's a lot. That's a lot of points, man. Okay. I'll stick with it. That's just a lot of points, though.
Yeah. I think they do it too. I'm taking the Canes to cover. I think this is their welcome back party. Don't count us out party. Execute at a really high level. And again, if I think the leaders that are on this team, are who they are, I believe that's what we'll see. I believe we'll see them get right, get back, and stinks it takes a loss to get there, but here you are, and maybe that's the best thing that happened to Miami moving forward.
We've seen it with other teams. Heck, we can bring up Clemson in 2016.
Yeah.
Felt like they needed that loss to Pitt, and then they end up going on and winning the national title. So could be a similar story with with Miami. Also with SMU, they had a loss earlier in the year that has propelled them in many ways. Number 14, SMU is traveling to Virginia. SMU is a 10-point favorite, Mac, unless that's changed. Noon on ESPN2. Mac wearing his Virginia blue rowback sweatshirt. SMU fans, come for him. What is he thinking? But Mac, it feels like this number is a little low. SMU only a 10-point favorite. Now, they let Boston College hang around, right? That game was a lot closer than the final score indicated. It was a 10-point game at the end, but SMU scored a touchdown at the very end. Now, Virginia is coming off a terrible performance at Notre Dame. Even Tony Elliott said he's not sure who his quarterback is, so you've got that issue. Elijah Roberts allegedly back for SMU, which will be huge for the Mustangs. It just feels like one of those games you got to go out there, you got to handle your business. But it also, where SMU is right now in the playoff rankings, being on the outside looking in as of now, of course, they control their own destiny. Like we said against BC, it would go a long way if you could go win this game 50-14. Like it would go a really long way, Mac.
Yeah. And that's just kind of where we are, and I know everyone says just win, and sure, that is correct. If you win out from this point on and win the ACC championship, you're in. I totally get that. But I like a little insurance. I like a little reassurance and kind of covering all your bases here. And style points are going to matter, from now for forever. Style points are going to matter. And the way you do it, because we have people selecting, seeding, and rankings that they watch. And the biggest thing that I have come to grips with, KG, of these however many years that we've had a college football playoff and people physically selecting what teams are going, it's about the eye test. It's about style points. Those matter. And they can use any type of indicator they want. It all comes back down, really to that. And so, yeah, you've got to go out and execute. And again, this is a, UVA team that has shown flashes and has shown improvement here and there, but unfortunately the inconsistencies at the quarterback position, which is the most important in all of sport, as we say almost every single episode, have hurt them and have really hurt them, in these handful of games here where thankfully Pittsburgh was in the middle of that, a big win, an impactful win, but it's also surrounded by really bad losses. So, this is one where how can SMU bounce back? How can they continue to, elevate their game and score a lot of points? And I think having Elijah Roberts back is going to be huge for that defense and for that defensive line specifically. But I look for the Ponies to roll. I mean, I'm with you. I think that 10 number is really low, and I think they handle business and get after it.
That's a kind of a number where, and we do this all the time on the podcast, we think, what does Vegas know? Like, what do they know? Because Virginia, yes, a much improved football team. I am not trying to take anything away from my Who's, but they went to Notre Dame and got shellacked. They turned the ball over 5 times. SMU has forced
Right.
20 turnovers this season, 10th best in the country. Like, SMU is going to force turnovers, especially with Elijah Roberts back. You don't really feel
Yeah.
like you know who your quarterback is. Both your quarterbacks, more Calandria, but both are turnover prone. It feels like a game where Virginia is going to, or sorry, SMU is going to win that battle, Max. So I feel like this
Yeah.
number is low. If I'm missing
Right.
something, please let me know. But maybe it's just
Yeah.
because
We'll
SMU
find out.
struggled a bit with BC. Do you think that's it?
Yeah. Could be, and it could be a factor of figuring it out and seeing, okay, where are these guys going to be, or is it an injured player that we don't know about that we're going to find out 10 minutes before kickoff, which I would not like. I would not appreciate that. And
We
again,
hate
kind
that.
of like we told you guys, I'm rooting for the teams with a number beside their name. That's just how it is right now in the part of the season. We need, as a league, these teams to do good, and SMU's got to step up like they have all year and continue to play. I mean, there was a run there, KG, where they were just blowing people out. And not that it came to a
Right.
screeching stop against Duke with the 1-point win with 6 turnovers, because then they did it the next week to Pitt, but kind of reverted back a little bit with only a 10-point win late against BC there. So we'll see. I would like to see them bounce back. Want to see Kevin Jennings continue to be one of the most dominant players at his position. A quiet 300-yard game last week. See him continue to build on that and do his thing. Because again, when you talk about these defenses and where they kind of are, Virginia towards the bottom in the ACC, you should be able to take advantage of that. They are bottom 3 in pass defense, and they're right about the middle for run defense. So this balanced attack, from SMU should be able to do whatever they want, should be able to really take advantage and do some good things.
Agreed, Mac. We talked a lot of SMU, by the way, on our mailbag episode. So if you guys missed that, go check it out. We put that one out on Wednesday. And I want to say, and I'm truly not saying this sarcastically, I appreciate the SMU fans that kept us informed about the whole Vanderbilt situation, that SMU had Vanderbilt on the
I
schedule.
promise you, I did not know
Vandy backed
that, didn't
out.
remember it, had no reason to know
Yeah,
it.
I didn't know that either. Maybe because Vandy was drawing Texas and already had Virginia Tech on there that they decided to pull out. But I think that would have helped. I'm not sure how much it increases your strength of schedule, but it probably does because Nevada brings you down a bit. And then, of course, if you beat
Right.
Vandy, Vandy's a team that was ranked at one point. So that's just an interesting nugget. And as I said, which someone else tweeted this to me, and I want to be clear, the SMU has no control over their ACC schedule. So that's not their fault. I'm just saying they didn't have the most challenging ACC schedule. So that doesn't help their SOS. But obviously they have no control over that. So that's
Right.
not really the point.
And
But
again, part of that
just
was the
when,
other teams didn't keep up their end of the bargain. I mean,
yeah,
when I saw
true.
Florida State on there, when I saw Louisville on there in back-to-back weeks, I was like, oh, yikes, this is a little bit brutal. And thinking, okay, this could be a welcome to the league type thing. And obviously they handled those accordingly.
Yeah, no, great point, Mac. Okay. I think we're both taking SMU minus 10 in this football game. And I would be pretty surprised if they didn't cover. Let's talk Pitt Louisville. Mac, I'm going to save our underdog talk for a specific game in the speed round. So we will get there because I want your thoughts on this specific game. But let's get to Pitt Louisville. Louisville's hosting this game. Louisville's an 8-point favorite, 4 p.m. on ESPN2. Pitt has won 7 of the last 9 of these matchups. I don't think I realized that. I remember, though, Pitt ruining a lot last year by beating Louisville in Pittsburgh when Pitt was down in the dumps and Louisville was ranked nationally and having a great year. So I remember that game very vividly. I remember all the injuries for Louisville. Pitt and Louisville both coming off tough losses, but Louisville's, I think, much more demoralizing. Pitt had every chance in the world, and Nate Yarnell showed them some stuff. I think it'll probably be Yarnell, even though we're not sure on that yet, Mac. I just wonder where Louisville is mentally. Like, this will be a really interesting test for Jeff Brom, his new culture there at Louisville. Can you right the ship? Can you overcome what was a brutal and just like locker room hurting loss at Stanford?
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. To lose a game that way to that opponent, at right after
Yikes.
beating a big dog for the first time ever. So maybe you're a little too bit excited about that. Maybe you're a little bit too locked into the press clippings, but you got to bounce back. And what another great opportunity going against a 7-3 team, bringing them to your house, a very aggressive defense. So, you have to pay attention and pick your shots and things of that nature. So I can't wait to see it. And really, I'm not sure what's going to happen just because I don't know who's going to show up. What team's going to show up for both of these guys?
Yeah.
When you see the execution and you see a team like Pitt just get blown out, and the score is not really reflective at all by SMU. Probably when they are a little bit stronger because you have Eli Holsting and things of that nature, and you're coming off a crazy great game against Syracuse. You get blown out there, and then you take Clemson to the last play essentially of the game. And same thing for Louisville. You beat Clemson, and then you lose to Stanford, a team that Clemson beat by 30. And it's so strange. It's so weird. And that's why we love college football, right? It's one of those things where we truly don't know every single week what's going to happen. There's so many factors. These are young men that are involved in this game. They're not these professionals. And so I really don't know. But I think the aggressiveness of Pitt, what they do is going to be a challenge, especially their vertical pressing. How are they going to be able to fare against that? And on the other side, if you're Pittsburgh, just offensively, are you going to be able to throw it for 350 plus like you did against Clemson? Is that going to be the identity of the offense? Or are you going to try to get more of a run game really going and established?
And how is Desmond Reed feeling? Because he came up a
Sure.
little gimpy towards the end of that Clemson game, and Nate Yarnell took 8 sacks, so he's probably not feeling great. But
Oh,
Narduzzi
sure.
said he was really impressed with Nate Yarnell, and Nate did a heck of a job. I like Nate Yarnell. You and I talked about this, Mac. If he's your starter going down to Louisville, I feel fine about it. Eli Holstein had a great start to the year. He's obviously your future, but he hasn't exactly played well lately. So might as well roll with Yarnell, who played great. And Mac, I want to add this. Let me just give you this little nugget because I'm not sure if you've seen this, because this adds to Louisville's issues and why I'm really leaning Pittsburgh to cover the 8 points here. Louisville's first regular season trip to the West Coast was the Stanford game last week in 33 years. It continued to go badly. They lost the game, Mac. Then the co-pilot of their flight home got sick. So they were delayed and they did not take off. They did not leave Stanford until 3:30 p.m. Eastern Sunday, disrupting the Cardinals post-game routine. I'm getting this from a site that covers Louisville. Brahm said the coaches had to conduct team meetings at the hotel early Sunday morning, and they couldn't have their usual Sunday practice. So there you go, Mac. How does that make you feel about Louisville in this game?
Wow. Yikes. That's
Yikes.
crazy. My gosh. How does that even happen?
Plus
It's
the
so
time
weird. And
change,
also,
like the
yeah,
flight,
that's
all of
brutal.
it.
That's
Brutal.
terrible. That's terrible. I'm sure everyone's
Yeah.
really excited about conference realignment with those
It's the
factors,
best,
things of
right?
that
We love it. We love it. Well, I'm leaning Pitt plus 8. I also think, Pitt has defeated a top 25 team in 8 straight years. And Louisville is not ranked, but this would be a team that, was ranked. So it kind of fits into that bill. I'm taking Pitt plus 8. What do you think, Mac?
Yeah, I think that's where I'm leaning. Again, I really the imbalance and lack of consistency by both these teams. I really have no idea. I think there's so many different things that really could arise, and who's available. Is Isaac Brown done for the year?
Right.
Like, is he back?
It's
How
questionable.
different will this team? And the next freshman looked great for Louisville. He ran the ball super effectively and got in the end zone like 3 times. So I think I'll go Pitt as well, just to cover that. Just because I think they can at least make it close, but maybe go money line. Maybe feel good about them winning the game.
I kind of do. And
Yeah.
think about these young running backs. Isaac Brown, questionable if Duke Watson goes, who was really good against Stanford. But then you think about the running backs in pass protection as well against this Pittsburgh defense that's just full of werewolves and going to blitz a billion times. So I like Nate Yarnell. I'm a Yarnell fan. Maybe it's because he's from Texas. All right, Mac. Our
I
last
understand.
game here in our Big Four is the game that you will be at, sir. Virginia Tech is at Duke Saturday, 8 o'clock on ACC Network. Virginia Tech, a 3-point favorite, question mark. Right now, drones is questionable. He's, according to some sources, split time between training room and the field. So not a great sign. That was on Wednesday when that was reported. Not a great sign for a game week. Bashal Tutin is a game time decision. Malachi Thomas is out. So you've got all these injuries for Virginia Tech. Both these teams coming off a bye. Virginia Tech, they're 5-5. They need to win one of these next two to get to a bowl. Duke's already 7-3. Again, I'm worried. I'm struggling with Vegas this week. Virginia Tech's a 3-point favorite here. I don't know. I feel like I'd lean Duke unless we're just being thrown off. Like, was Kyron Jones really in the training room, Mac? Is he actually completely fine? Do we know anything?
Right.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. Who knows?
I like the backup. I like Virginia Tech's backup.
Yeah. This is a really weird thing, especially when I saw that number, even more so when you start talking about these injuries and like, are they on their third string running back? Is that who we're going against here?
Maybe.
Do you have your running back, your quarterback that can run the ball super effectively? I don't know. Duke has a very good pass defense. I think they're actually number one in the ACC. Now, you could lean on that and say, well, part of that reason is because everybody can pass or everybody can run on them. They don't have to pass.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think it's one of those things where they're super active. They get after it. Obviously, they make TFLs and create chaos and can take the ball away. They're also the second best defense in regards to points given up a game, behind Cal at 22. So this defense is very good. I don't see it, KG. I don't know how the Hokies get this win at Duke. It's one of those things where I don't know. I don't think there's any magic that you can get from Lane Stadium. I think with your guys being questionable and probably still hurt regardless, this Duke defense is going to hit them and hit them a bunch. So I'm going with Duke here. And I think that we continue to see Malik Murphy take the necessary strides. I don't think he's had like this crazy great year. He's definitely not had a bad year, but he's kind of finding his way. And this is his first year as a starter. Has a great receiver in Jordan Moore that's been electric. I mean, that guy is such a special player. And then the running back room at times that you've seen guys do really well. You've seen them dip off a little bit here and there. So we'll see. I think this Duke offense is still evolving. But I think they get this dub. It's very strange to me that they're not favored.
I think perhaps the reason Virginia Tech's favored would be, just kind of the suspect nature of the schedule Duke's played, one could say. But also Virginia Tech's defense has looked pretty good as of late. You have APR, who, ranks second in the whole country with 13 sacks. Actually, Anais Peoples, this is from intern Nick, according to PFF, is the highest rated Virginia Tech defensive player, even higher rated than APR. So he's had a great year. The defense has looked good. And I guess it's just a matter of Connor Schlee, who's the backup. I think in his moments, he has looked good, Mac. So he's capable. Now, without Bashal Tutin and without Malachi Thomas, that seems like an uphill battle.
Right.
I'm taking Duke +3. I was just trying to make the devil's advocate argument because I just don't see it. I think Duke gets this done.
Yeah, I do too. I think they make it happen. And again, I think it's going to be, one of those things. Are we talking about a 10-win Duke team at the end of the year? And what an unbelievable feat, for Coach Manny Diaz there and what he's been able to bring to Durham quickly in a hurry, which is fun. It's been fun to watch.
Mac, before we get to our speed round, we have to talk about our good friends over at Ingles. And I need you to break down for me what you've been doing out there on your Traeger today, or really it was yesterday. It's brisk, it's cold, the leaves are falling, and Mac is cooking some alarming items, to be honest.
If you haven't noticed, I've been looking down a lot. I've been looking at my kind of timer here. I do have to go outside and stir this chili because it is smoking right now, KG. I've talked about this so many different times. I'm doing this Texas style chili here where I have just a ball of meat, a 3-pound ball of meat that is just sitting there smoking, and the juices are rolling, everything's going. The chili's off to the side, also being prepared and getting its thing. And we're talking about a 6-7 hour cook here when it's all said and done. And I cannot wait to finish that and to get it going and for you guys to see the results. It's going to be really, really fun. I cannot wait to share it with you. Check it out on social media. It will be there soon. But that timer's going off. I got to go, KG. Let's pick up on the speed round after a quick message from our friends over at Ingles.
Did you know Ingles only sells USDA choice and prime cuts of meat? maybe it's time to reward yourself. Our butchers cut all our meat fresh in the store every day. Grass-fed, organic, you name it. Not only that, we'll even cut it to order just the way you like it. And we grind meat fresh in the store multiple times a day. It's all in the bag. That's the best meat in town for the best folks in town. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
All right, Mac, let's get to our speed round. I want to start with North Carolina at Boston College. UNC trying to possibly get to 8 wins after some, a really rough start for them, which is impressive. Noon on the CW. UNC is a 3-point favorite. Mac, I want to use this game to talk about Underdog Fantasy. Use our code GMPOD to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. The easiest place to play fantasy sports. We love it. It's a lot of fun. We'd like to win more, but you know what? We're having fun. And that's what matters, Mac. The question I want to ask you about this game, Omarion Hampton, his numbers here on the Underdog app, 0.5 rushing receiving touchdowns. That seems like a pretty good one here. And then his rushing yard total is at 118.5. Higher or lower with Omarion Hampton there, Mac? Which way are you leaning?
Wow, definitely you're slam dunking the touchdown. I mean, that guy's just,
I think
that's
so.
what he does. He's going to make it happen. So now it's like, okay, the odds of that, though, aren't great. So you're not winning a ton of money if you select that. So you have to figure out, okay, do you want to take a little bit of a risk here? Do you want to go, to the yardage there and make that happen? So, it's one of those things where, okay, you look at the BC defense hasn't been exceptional all year long, but also 118 yards is a big number. He's coming off 150. I don't think he's banged up, and he's just a bell cow. He's going to get it. So I definitely feel much better about the touchdown, but you can't go wrong either way that you want to go with that.
I think this game will be one of the sneaky better games of the weekend because I thought BC and Grayson James gained some confidence in that SMU game. I'm going to take UNC -3 because of Omarion Hampton. And Criswell is playing really well too. But that could be a good game, Mac. That'll be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think that the Omarion Hampton factor, he's so good. BC, middle of the pack in their run defense, what they're going to provide. Donovan Ezeraku on a tear, so look out for him making a big impact in this game and making that difficult for BC and maybe even a little bit one-dimensional. So I'm with you. I'm taking the heels with the points, and I think it's yet again another Omarion Hampton day.
All right, Mac, let's talk about this classic ACC battle, the big game, Stanford at Cal, 3:30 p.m. on ACC Network. If you had told someone 10 years ago that Stanford Cal would be on the ACC Network, I think their brain would have imploded. Cal is a 14.5-point favorite. This is so interesting because Cal did not look good against Syracuse, and Stanford came alive against Louisville, and seems like they found something with Emmett Mosley and Ashton Daniels played well. Seems like a big number in this game, Mac, for Cal.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like, what do you take for granted the most? Like, are you looking at the entire body of work? Or are you looking very recently in what these teams were able to do? As you mentioned, I love what Stanford found out. I mean, they have that twitchy freshman in Mosley that he was all over the place and really doing good, getting the ball downfield, scoring touchdowns. You saw, what they were able to do throwing the football for probably the most effective day we've seen this year. And you're going against a Cal defense that I thought was going to really challenge, their opponent last week, and they didn't. With the things that McCord was able to do, pushing the ball downfield. So a bit of a toss-up. I think you take Stanford with the points. Cal probably still wins, but I think you take Stanford with the points here.
I'm leaning that way too, Mac. I think that was a locker room galvanizing win for Stanford. Okay, UConn at Syracuse, noon on ACC Network. Syracuse a 10.5-point favorite. Mac, I think Syracuse, win this game and you're ranked next week. Like, you beat UNLV, and UNLV is currently 24th in the college football playoff rankings. I'm not saying that beating UConn is gonna be what makes you deserving. But at 8-3, with a big game coming up against Miami, do your part for the league, Syracuse. Get this done. And they should. UConn has played both Duke and Wake Forest close this year. UConn is 7-3. This is not a 2-10 UConn team. But Syracuse needs to recover from that trip out west, continue with the momentum with the big three, even big four if you want to add in Pena, and they need to go to work here, Mac. We need this. We need you, Syracuse. Deliver.
I hear you. I hear you. Orange faithful there, getting excited, talking about being ranked. Come on, KG. I don't know if quite that'll happen. I get the reference,
8
and
and
I get it
3.
totally. Maybe
You're not going to rank an 8-3 Syracuse, but you're going to rank
there's probably
UNLV, who
like,
they
you know,
beat.
if they were in the SEC, maybe. But I mean, what are you talking about? Let's be real. Let's be real. So, as frustrating as it is, I get it, and it's a very impressive job. Coach Fran Brown and company have done fantastic, and you got to give them a ton of credit and love what they've been able to do here. So I'm going to take them with the points. Big opportunity, like you said, not your typical UConn team. This is going to be a challenge. Their offensive line is really good, so they've got to bring it.
All right, Mac, our last two. Number 17, Clemson is hosting the Citadel, 3:30 on CW, and Charleston Southern's playing Florida State. I honestly didn't even write down what channel this game is on because I'm not sure.
Not on
Clemson Citadel,
not on TV.
it's on radio. Clemson Citadel, Clemson needs to stay healthy and just, rest certain guys, just stay healthy. Charleston Southern, Florida State. Mac, is Florida State going to win this football game?
Mm-hmm. Great question. I'll start with Clemson. I want to see running backs other than Phil Maffa running the football. Honestly,
Correct.
I don't want to see Phil Maffa take a snap. It is senior day, though, so it's such a weird conundrum. One snap and then take a seat the rest of the deal. But yeah, other running backs involved. I don't even know if you play the offensive line that maybe are teetering on the fence. Are they back? Are they not back? Again, the senior day aspect of this really is a unique, interesting wrinkle that you wish you did not have. Cade Klubnik continue to push the ball downfield. Defense have a 60-minute game. Like that's what you want to see from this one. The other deal there, Charleston Southern, the game that's not on TV, that's on ESPN Plus. Have fun figuring that out and going and finding that. Easy to do, but just not what you expect. Sure, the number pool will be fantastic, and they can post a graphic about that later. Yeah, you got to win this game. If you don't win this game, I mean, it's code red. Like it's the worst possible thing imaginable.
It's already code red.
It's code blue. Go to code blue. Mac, that's the worst one.
It's code blue. It's code yellow. I don't even know. Charleston Southern's 1-10.
Find $60 million and get rid of everybody.
Yeah. Florida State's going to win the game. That is good news. That's good news to end the show on, Mac. Florida State's going to win.
That's right. I can't wait. I think they will. I think they dominate and really, really put on a good showing. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Always love and appreciate your support over on YouTube. Subscribe, jump in the comments. Tell us if you have trouble finding the FSU game. I'm sure you won't. It's easy to do. But again, we appreciate y'all always over here and look forward to next week. It's rivalry week. Cannot wait. We're going to be loaded up.
Yes.
It's going to be a ton of fun. So get back here soon. Cannot wait. But until next time, we'll see you.